How many personal finance books have you read in the last 5 years? How many podcasts on the commute? How many YouTube videos about index investing, tax optimization, and building wealth? Now, let me ask a different kind of question. How much of it have you actually implemented? Look, if you're like most of the high earning STEM professionals I work with, the honest answer is probably not much. And it's not because you're lazy. You've built an entire career solving complex technical problems. You're probably one of the sharpest people in any room you walk into. You've just been applying the wrong solution to the right kind of problem. So today, I'm going to show you why your financial goals keep failing. And it has nothing to do with discipline. And I'm going to walk you through the 5-phase system that changes that. And it's called the Financial Engineering Framework. Let's get into it. If you're new here, I'm Justin Saffel, engineer turned investment advisor, financially independent at age 38. I now manage over $12 million in client assets, and I work with high-earning STEM professionals and entrepreneurs who are doing the right things just in the wrong order with no system underneath. So let's talk about the problem. I think James Clear said it best. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fail to the level of your systems. Researchers at University of Pennsylvania found that people who implement systems, actual if-then rules and automated processes, are 300% more likely to achieve their goals than people who simply know what they should be doing. 300%. Not because they're smarter, because they stopped relying on motivation. And motivation is a terrible business partner. It shows up inconsistently, disappears under stress, completely ghosts you when life gets busy. Look, you've probably funded a Roth IRA in January with the best of intentions, but by March, you forgot to set up the auto contribution. You have an old 401k sitting at a previous employer that you've been meaning to roll over for the last 2 years. You know you should be optimizing for taxes, but there are 4 different strategies on Reddit and they all contradict each other. That's not a discipline problem. That's an architecture problem. And the fix is a system. So I've seen this play out dozens of times with my clients. The engineer with a detailed 5-year financial plan built in a Google Sheet, color-coded, well-researched, updated twice in January, unopened by April. Not because he stopped caring, but because the plan was a document and not a system. It required him to show up, make decisions every month, but life has other plans. Look, a goal without a system underneath it is just a wish with a deadline. And I learned this the hard way. I spent years as a project manager and development engineer making good money and doing nothing intelligent with it. Accounts scattered everywhere, weekends spent reading about investment strategies, stock picking, and then freezing when it actually came time to implement anything. And it's because I was making reactive, emotion-driven decisions with my money that I had no real system for. And the shift came when I started asking the question, what if I managed my personal finances the same way I managed a construction project at work? Because on the job site, I didn't hope for things to get built. I didn't rely on a crew's feeling of motivation on Tuesday morning. I designed a system, a blueprint, a sequence, a set of rules, and feedback loops. The project got built regardless of who was having a rough day. So I applied the same mindset to my finances. I stopped reacting and started designing. I stopped consuming so much information and started implementing a framework. I reached financial independence at age 38, not because I was smarter than anyone else in the room, but because the system ran whether I felt like it or not. So let me walk you through the financial engineering framework. It's a 5-phase system. It takes you from scattered financially to work optional with a clear timeline, automated cash flows, and zero reliance on willpower. Each phase builds on the last, and you don't skip phases. You don't reorder them, you just build. So let's talk about the first phase. The first phase is calibrate. Measure before you move. You can't engineer towards a target that you haven't actually defined. And most people have this vague sense of what financial freedom means. Enough to retire, enough to stop working. And that vagueness is the enemy of progress. So in phase one, you calculate your freedom number, the exact amount of capital your investments need to generate and cover your lifestyle indefinitely. Then you calculate your current net worth and your freedom gap. That's the distance between where you are now and where you need to be. This one-step procedure provides more clarity than 5 years of financial podcasts. Because for the first time, you know exactly where you're building towards and exactly how far you have to go. And if you want to calculate your freedom number and your freedom gap right now, I built a free calculator that does it in minutes. You can find it along with tons of other free tools, resources, checklists, courses, and live weekly implementation calls to help you shave years off your timeline to work optional. The link is in the description. All right, now on phase two, we optimize. This is where you automate where your wealth flows. I think Warren Buffett said it best. If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. So once you know your target, you redesign your cash flow to fund it automatically. Most people invest what's left over at the end of the month. The problem here is there's almost never anything left at the end of the month. Lifestyle inflation, impulsive spending, I'll start next month, it all compounds in the wrong direction. So in phase two, you flip the sequence. Saving and investing happens first automatically before you ever see the money. What's left? No decisions required. So you have to think about it like a code pipeline, right? You don't manually push deploys every time you ship code. You build the pipeline once and it runs itself. Your money should work the same way. Now on to phase number three, engineer. This is where you gotta build a tax efficient account structure because where you put your money matters almost as how much you put in, okay? And so the wrong account structure creates tax drag, and that quietly bleeds your compounding returns year after year. A 401k here, an underfunded Roth over there, old rollovers collecting dust. It's just messy and it's expensive. So in phase three, you build an intentional account architecture, the right accounts in the right sequence structured to minimize taxes now and in retirement. Ruthless simplicity applied to one area most high earners ignore until it's too late. Now into phase four, this is accelerate. This is where we compress your timeline. So once you have the foundation and it's solid, you apply systematic investment strategies that shave years, sometimes a decade off your path to work optional. Asset allocation rules, risk management, and timing. None of these things are complicated in isolation, but what makes them powerful is that they're built on top of a foundation that's already running. You see, most people, they try to implement these advanced strategies without any foundation in place. And that's like adding a third floor to a house with no structural walls. So when the system is working and the architecture is right, phase four is just like tuning the engine. The output is calculated in projections that tell you exactly when work becomes optional. It's not a hopeful estimate at this point, it's a number, okay? Phase five is liberate. This is where you make work optional while you're still healthy. So here's a stat that should really stop you pretty cold. The healthy life expectancy in the US sits at 63.9 years. Traditional retirement planning tells you to work until 65. You could spend your entire career working towards a freedom that arrives after your healthiest years are already behind you. The financial engineering framework targets work optional status in your 40s or 50s with decades of healthy years ahead to actually live the life you've been building towards. So at phase five, your system runs in roughly 15 minutes a week. You make decisions based on what you want, not what you need financially. And work becomes a choice because you have the daily, weekly, quarterly, and annual checklists and reviews and automations in place to get you there. So here's why most people never actually get there. Most people skip phase 1 and they never get clarity. Most people, they skip phase 2 and they rely on willpower, or they ignore phase 3 and overpay in taxes for decades. Then they try to jump to phase 4 with no foundation under it. And phase 5, it stays a dream. The engineers who actually reach financial independence earliest aren't the ones who knew the most. They're the ones who built a system first and they let it run. So here's what I want you to do right now. Tell me in the comments, which phase are you in? Are you in phase 1? You don't have a clear freedom number yet. Are you in phase 2? Your cash flow isn't automated yet. All right. Are you in phase 3? Your accounts are scattered with no real architecture. Or are you in phase 4? You haven't built the foundation yet and you're trying to optimize for performance. Maybe you're in phase 5 and you've got a system and work's becoming optional. Just do me a favor, drop your phase in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.